I built a small, bustling stir-fry shop on my family's ancestral wok-tossing skills. But one day, a Maybach cruised down the lively street, and out stepped the woman I'd been dating for 4 years. Clutching the latest Chanel bag, she looked down her nose at me and said, "Sincere Clark, let's break up." "Why?" I asked in agony. "Weren't we supposed to get married at the end of the year?" Victoria Reed sneered. "Do you know how much this bag costs? You could flip food in that wok until you reach the heavens, and you still wouldn't afford it in a year." Without a backward glance, Victoria walked away on her skyscraper heels. It turned out that after 4 years, I was simply not good enough for her. 2 months later, at the Chef's Championship, I made it into a Michelin star restaurant with a signature move, the Soaring Dragon's Glance. Facing the reporters, I smiled and said, "I have to thank my ex-girlfriend for refusing to marry me. It's because of her that I could prove a point. A man who flips woks can reach the heavens, and he can even flip his way into a Michelin star." Chapter 1. Boss, 1 order of stir-fried beef noodles. Coming right up, that'll be 15. I expertly tossed the noodles and beef in the wok, tumbling them until they were perfectly combined. Just before plating, I performed a classic wok flip, landing every last bit of the beef noodles squarely in the bowl. Just then, a black Maybach pulled up outside the shop. The door opened, and Victoria Reed stepped out. She was carrying a brand new Chanel handbag. She had mentioned it to me many times, and I had promised to save up and buy it for her before the new year. But now she already had it. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. She tilted her head back, strode up to me with an air of superiority, and pinched her nose in disgust. "Sincere Clark, let's break up." The spatula in my hand froze, then slipped, clattering loudly on the floor. I stared at her in disbelief, my voice filled with pain. "Why? Weren't we supposed to get married at the end of the year?" Victoria looked at me as if I were a joke. She sneered. "Do you know how much this bag costs? You could flip food in that wok until you reach the heavens, and you still wouldn't afford it in a year. Sincere, you can't give me what I want. We're done." Victoria turned, ready to leave on her skyscraper heels. I quickly wiped my greasy hands on my apron and reached out to grab her arm. "Victoria, everyone knows we're getting married. Besides, I've almost saved up enough to buy you that bag by the end of the year." Victoria shook my hand off with disgust, as if I were something filthy. "Are you deaf? Let me say it again so you understand. I am breaking up with you." The words echoed in my ears, loud as a thunderclap. I stood there, stunned. By the time I snapped out of it, Victoria was already in the passenger seat of the Maybach. I bolted out of the shop and rushed to the car, pounding on the passenger side window. But Victoria acted as if she couldn't see me, turning her head away in annoyance. The engine roared to life. The man behind the wheel slammed on the gas, and the car sped away. It shot through a puddle of dirty water, splashing me from head to toe. I stared after the car, my heart plunging into an icy abyss. The stench of the dirty water filled my nostrils, and the reality finally hit me. My girlfriend of 4 years had left me, but just a month ago we had taken our wedding photos. They were hanging on the wall of our new apartment right now. Just a week ago, we had booked the venue for our wedding reception and sent out all the invitations to our family and friends. And not long before that, she had been eating the special beef noodles I made for her, saying, "Sincere, this is so delicious. I want to eat this for the rest of my life." It all happened so fast. Even then, I couldn't believe that the woman I had loved deeply for 4 years would leave me over a handbag. It wasn't until I saw a post from Jessica Jones, Victoria's best friend, that I learned the truth. The man driving the Maybach was Victoria's ex-boyfriend. It wasn't just about the money, it was about them getting back together. Chapter 2. I closed the shop early and went home, my spirit crushed. The moment I opened the door, I was greeted by a sea of festive red decorations. But now, that cheerful color stung my eyes. I walked into the bedroom. Our wedding photo was hanging prominently above the bed. I remembered how happy I looked in that picture. My despair now was as deep as that happiness had been. Lying on the bed, I scrolled through my phone looking at old pictures of Victoria and me. I accidentally tapped on her profile and saw she had just updated her social media feed. She had posted a picture of a full meal, with the caption, 4 dishes and a soup. Not bad for my first time cooking. In the 4 years we were together, she never once lifted a finger in the kitchen. I was always the one who cooked for her, but now, for her ex-boyfriend, she had cooked for the first time. In the end, I guess I just wasn't worthy. I scrolled further up her feed. There were no more memories of us. On the very first day of our breakup, she had deleted every trace of our 4 years together. She was so quick, so eager to sever every tie to me. Looking back on those 4 years, my motto had always been the wife is always right. When it came to Victoria, no detail was too small. I even remembered her menstrual cycle perfectly. I would prepare brown sugar tea for her the day before to ease her discomfort. She once told me she was a light sleeper, so every night I would give her a foot massage followed by a warm glass of milk to help her fall asleep. One winter she casually mentioned wanting to see a giant snowman. I got up in the middle of the night and built one for her, just to surprise her when she woke up. I've gotten frostbite every winter since. But to see her smile, I was willing to do anything. As I was lost in my memories, a knock came from the door. When I opened it, I saw her familiar face, but behind her stood another face, one that made my stomach turn. "Sincere, I'm here to pick up my things." As soon as she spoke, Victoria walked past me as if I didn't exist. The man at the door, Ethan Hayes, looked at me with contempt. As he tried to step inside, I blocked his way. My voice was cold and firm. "You're not welcome here." Victoria, who was already inside, rushed back and shoved me aside. "What's your problem? Is your apartment made of gold or something? Why can't he come in?" She warmly pulled Ethan inside, sat him down on the sofa, and then had the nerve to order me to make tea. What a joke. This was my home. I grabbed Ethan by the arm, yanked him off the sofa, and started pushing him toward the door. Without hesitation, Victoria slapped me hard across the face. "Are you insane? You can't even sit down?" Ethan shot me a provocative look and then said to Victoria in a whining tone, "You're not going to be this mean to me, are you? You wouldn't hit me, would you?" Victoria's anger toward me vanished in an instant. She turned to Ethan and cooed, "Of course not, hubby. I'm always gentle with you." As she spoke, she leaned in and kissed him on the cheek right in front of me. Was I invisible? I snapped, grabbing both of them and shoving them out the door. As I slammed it shut, I could hear Victoria cursing, "Sincere, you deserve to be dumped." "I don't want any of this junk anyway. It's not worth a dime." Ethan chimed in, "Don't worry, baby. I'll buy you whatever you want. I'll get you things 100 times better than this goddamn loser ever could." I covered my ears and walked back to the bedroom. It had been completely ransacked. Clothes were thrown everywhere. Even the wedding photo from the nightstand was smashed on the floor, glass shattered to pieces. I finally realized that in 4 years I had never truly known Victoria Reed. She had never loved me, and these ruined things were the proof. Chapter 3. After a full day of wallowing at home, I finally came to my senses in the afternoon. Life had to go on. I changed my clothes, hopped on my scooter, and rode to my little shop. I started prepping the ingredients, ready to open for business. The moment I opened, a regular customer walked in, except she was a freeloader who never paid. I had always let her eat for free because she was Victoria's best friend, but now that we had broken up, there was no reason to continue the charity. 2 orders of stir-fried beef noodles, that'll be 30, I said coldly. "Come on, Sincere, don't be so cheap. You never used to charge me," Jessica Jones complained. "Victoria and I are broken up. From now on, you pay for your food," she snorted. "No wonder Victoria dumped you. Look at you, being so stingy. It's a good thing I told Victoria that Ethan was back. If she'd missed him, her life would have been ruined by you." When I didn't respond, she continued shamelessly, "Oh, there's something else you don't know. Victoria's pregnant. And it's Ethan's." My hand, which was chopping vegetables, slipped. The knife cut deep into my finger, and blood started to pour out. Ignoring the stinging pain, I spun around and roared at Jessica. "What did you say?" I said, "Victoria's been pregnant for a while. The baby isn't yours. Why else do you think she would break up with you?" I grabbed a nearby rag and pressed it messily against my finger, trying to stop the bleeding. The moment I heard the word pregnant, my blood ran cold. Victoria and I had always been careful. It was true she had been distant lately. I had chalked it up to pre-wedding jitters and hadn't thought much of it. It turned out she had been cheating on me all along, and yet she had the audacity to play the part of the loving fiancé every day. What an actress. It was a shame she wasn't in movies. Here I was, a fool with a green hat, still thinking about how to make her happy every day, completely oblivious to her betrayal. Satisfied with my devastated expression, Jessica left. As she walked out, she tossed one last taunt over her shoulder. "Ethan's family owns a restaurant, a real one. Who would ever look twice at this little dump of yours? Ever heard of a Michelin star restaurant? You probably haven't, you country bumpkin. I no longer cared about her cruel words. I picked up my phone and called Victoria. I needed an explanation. "Hello, Victoria. Are you pregnant with Ethan's child?" My voice trembled as I asked the question. Victoria's lazy voice came through the phone. "How did you know?" If I had held on to any sliver of hope that her friend was lying, hearing her admit it herself shattered my world completely. My hand holding the phone began to shake. "Victoria, how could you do this to me? Do you have any decency at all?" Her voice turned sharp as she screamed back at me. "You should be grateful I broke up with you instead of making you the happy father to be, or what, Sincere? Do you actually enjoy the idea of raising another man's child?" With that, she ruthlessly hung up the phone. Blood from the cut on my finger trickled down the back of my hand. My heart was so numb that I couldn't feel a thing. "Victoria, you used my love for you to hurt me time and time again. My 4 years of devotion had all been for nothing. I thought she couldn't possibly sink any lower, but I had no idea just how despicable she could be." Chapter 4. Early the next morning, I arrived at my shop with fresh vegetables, only to find the roll-up door spray painted with red graffiti. In huge letters it read, "Goddamn loser, noodles suck." I grabbed a bucket, filled it with water, and furiously scrubbed the door with a brush, but the paint was waterproof. No matter how hard I scrubbed, it wouldn't come off. To avoid more people seeing it and hurting my business, I just rolled the door up. I prepped my ingredients, ready to start the day. I had just finished chopping an onion, my eyes stinging, when I heard footsteps at the entrance. "Welcome. What can I get for you?" A woman's mocking laughter echoed in the small space. "Sincere, you really are a goddamn loser. Crying while you chop vegetables just because I dumped you?" It was Victoria. The man next to her, Ethan, glanced around the shop, shaking his head in disgust. "This is it? This dump? The bathroom in my family's restaurant is bigger than this." He took out a wad of tissues, meticulously wiped down a stool, and then placed a thick layer of 10 tissues on it before sitting down. "Stir-fried beef noodles. I hear you're pretty good at it. Make me a plate and let me see for myself. If it's any good, I might consider letting you wash dishes at my restaurant. How does 3,000 a month sound?" Watching their little performance, I felt my blood boil. "Get out, both of you. Don't make me throw you out." Ethan laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. "You? Throw me out? In your dreams. I'll give you one more chance. Are you going to cook or not?" I looked him straight in the eye and said 2 words, "I'm not." "Fine, you asked for this." Ethan clapped his hands. Instantly, 5 or 6 men in black suits and sunglasses stormed in from outside. They started smashing everything in sight. The glass on the refrigerator and display case shattered. Vegetables were scattered all over the floor. A few of them even tore down the sign hanging in the middle of my shop. The plaque, my Best Gourmet Snack Award, hit the floor and split in 2. I lunged forward to grab the broken pieces, but a couple of the men pinned me to the ground. They stomped on the plaque mercilessly until it was nothing but splinters. I struggled to get up and go after Ethan. The moment I touched his shoe, one of the goons kicked the back of my knee. I collapsed, forced to kneel before Ethan. The men held my arms behind my back. Ethan grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. He smirked and patted my cheek. "You want to fight me? You're still too green. I can smash this little dump whenever I want. What are you going to do about it?" Victoria, standing by his side, giggled and cooed. "Hubby, you're so handsome." Then she shot me a contemptuous look. "Sincere, knowing you and dating you for 4 years is the biggest stain on my life. Thank God I left you, you goddamn loser." Ethan stood up, brushing off non-existent dust from his clothes. He wrapped an arm around Victoria's waist and headed for the door. At the entrance, he paused, his back to me, and said dismissively, "You country bumpkin, you'll never set foot in a Michelin star restaurant in your entire life. I think you'd be better off buying a tricycle and setting up a street stall. Oh, and remember to pedal fast, or the city inspectors might catch you." They left, their laughter echoing behind them. The men in black vanished just as quickly. I stared at the wreckage around me, filled with utter despair. "Victoria, you didn't even leave me a shred of dignity after our breakup. From this day forward, we are finished. All debts are settled." I slammed my fist into the ground. I would not rest until I got my revenge. "A Michelin star restaurant, huh? Fine. I'll get into a Michelin restaurant and show you both." Chapter 5. Back home, I retrieved the wok ladle that had been hidden away in storage. So many years had passed, but it hadn't rusted at all. I took it out and gently polished it. My mom told me it was a gift from my father, but for as long as I could remember, I'd never met my dad. For the next few days, I locked myself at home for intensive training. It was strange. Ever since I started using this ladle, my wok-tossing skills felt more natural, more fluid. It was as if it had been custom-made for me. From stir-frying to plating, my movements were as smooth as flowing water. But that wasn't enough. I needed to turn my cooking into an art form. I wanted every single judge to be amazed by my technique. After grueling practice, I perfected a legendary move, the Soaring Dragon's Glance. It was time for its comeback. Full of confidence, I signed up for the Chef's Championship. This time I was going to reclaim all the glory that was rightfully mine. I blazed through the competition, round after round, becoming the dark horse of the tournament. Finally, the day of the finals arrived. Under the eager eyes of the crowd, I stepped onto the stage. My opponent was last year's champion. He was defending his title. I was the challenger. Everyone was intrigued by this underdog who had come out of nowhere, and the cameras focused on me. I took the ladle from my bag and ran my hand over it. "Old friend," I whispered, "we're going all in this time." I had to win. After prepping my ingredients and getting everything into the wok, I began to stir-fry with my special ladle. As I tossed the food, the wok spun in my hands. I could even feel the rhythm of the music playing in the arena. My timing was perfect. The audience was mesmerized, as if they had forgotten this was a cooking competition and not a performance. But the best was yet to come. With perfect control over the heat, just as the food was about 80% cooked, I launched the contents of the wok high into the air. The audience gasped. Even the judges held their breath. What was I doing? This was madness. Just as they thought the food was going to splatter all over the floor, I acted. I spun the ladle in the air, catching every single piece of food that should have fallen, guiding it all seamlessly back into the wok. "The Soaring Dragon," I shouted. Then, I flipped the contents of the ladle onto the plate in a perfect mound and declared, "Glance." A stunning plate of stir-fried beef noodles sat before the judges. The silent arena erupted into thunderous applause. Several excited audience members leaped to their feet, cheering. After tasting my dish, the judges all raised their approve signs. I was the champion, and my move, the Soaring Dragon's Glance, became my signature. Because of this, I became a star chef that every Michelin star restaurant wanted to recruit. Reporters swarmed me, shoving microphones in my face. "Chef Clark, who is the person you want to thank the most right now?" I smiled at the camera and said, "I have to thank my ex-girlfriend for refusing to marry me. It's because of her that I could prove a point. A man who flips woks can reach the heavens, and he can even flip his way into a Michelin star." Chapter 6. After the competition, my popularity soared. Not only did I receive offers from Michelin star restaurants, but I was also invited to join various culinary associations. Everyone wanted me on their team. To my surprise, Ethan's father, Walter Morgan, personally sought me out and invited me to join his family's restaurant. I was about to refuse, but he offered an astronomical salary. He even made a bold promise. If I came, the entire restaurant would be under my command. I was intrigued. I took my ladle and went. I sat in his office, my legs crossed, waiting for Walter. I had just taken a sip of the tea his secretary brought me when I heard a commotion outside the door. The door burst open, and Ethan strode in with a hostile look on his face. "Who let you in here?" "Get out." I remained seated on the sofa, unmoving. Ethan's face flushed with anger. He raised his hand to slap me. Just as his palm was about to connect with my face, a middle-aged man's voice boomed, "Stop, who dares to hit my son?" The moment he said that, not only did Ethan freeze, but I was stunned as well. Ethan ran to his father. "Dad, you must have seen wrong. I was about to hit him, not the other way around." "Insolent whelp, this is your brother," Walter Morgan said, angrily shoving Ethan aside. The moment he saw me, his face broke into a smile. "Son, can you let me see that ladle?" I took the ladle out of my bag and handed it to him. As the man took it, he stroked it gently, his eyes gradually turning red. "This is it. This is the ladle. When I went abroad to study culinary arts, I left this with your mother. You were still in her womb then. I promised your mother I would return after I finished my studies, but later I lost contact with her. Thank heavens, I finally found you." With that, the man pulled me into a tight embrace. I felt a warm wetness on my shoulder. He was crying. Before I could even react, he dropped another bombshell. "Son, from now on, this Michelin star restaurant is yours. Dad is giving it to you. Consider it my way of making up for all these years. What do you say?" Before I could answer, Ethan cried out in protest. "Dad, have you lost your mind? How can you give the restaurant to this goddamn loser?" "What about me?" Walter snorted. "I've spent years trying to train you, and you're still a good-for-nothing. In your hands, this restaurant would go bankrupt sooner or later. I'll continue to give you your monthly allowance. If you're careful, it will be enough." Just then, Victoria, who had been eavesdropping outside, couldn't hold back any longer. She burst into the room. "Ethan, what about our wedding? And what about the baby? How are we supposed to live?" The old man's gaze toward Victoria was murderous. "So you're the woman who caused all this strife between my two sons?" Walter advanced on Victoria, his presence radiating an innate authority. He raised his hand and slapped her across the face. "Get out," he said heartlessly. "Disappear from Sutherland, and get rid of that bastard child you're carrying. If I find out you secretly gave birth to it, I can't guarantee you'll live to see another sunrise." Victoria trembled with fear. The moment she saw me, it was as if she had found her last hope. She fell to her knees and crawled toward me, grabbing my pant leg and banging her head on the floor. "I was wrong. Sincere, please. Ask your father to spare me to show her sincerity." She slammed her forehead against the ground again and again until it was bleeding. I hardened my heart, pulled my leg away, and turned my back as if I hadn't seen a thing. Security guards dragged Victoria away. Her desperate cries echoed down the hall. "Sincere, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I'm begging you. Victoria, if you had shown me even a shred of mercy back then, you wouldn't have ended up like this. You brought this all upon yourself." I took my ladle and went home. The matter of suddenly having a father was something I needed to go back to my hometown and ask my mother about. Chapter 7. I had just finished packing my bags when I opened the door and saw Walter Morgan. He stood there awkwardly. When he saw me, a smile lit up his face. "Son, where are you going?" "Out of politeness," I replied, "back to my hometown." A flicker of excitement crossed his eyes. "Can I come with you?" he asked eagerly. Looking at his hopeful expression, I couldn't bring myself to say no. We sat in silence on the train. When we arrived, he followed closely behind me, taking my suitcase. "Let me help you with that." As the taxi pulled up to my house, the man's grip on the suitcase tightened. He followed me to the door, taking deep breaths. I knocked. "Mom, I'm home." My mother, Helen Clark, opened the door, her face beaming. But when she saw the man behind me, her expression turned pale. The man behind me was already teary-eyed. His lips trembled as he called out her name, Helen. The moment my mother heard this, tears streamed down her face. She quickly wiped them away. Snapping back to reality, she pulled me inside and slammed the door shut, locking my father outside. I quietly went to my room, leaving them some space. My father kept knocking, his voice filled with urgency. "Helen, open the door. I need to talk to you. Helen, please, open up." Finally, my mother opened the door. I brought them each a cup of hot tea and then retreated to my room. My father held the cup, rubbing his hands over it again and again. "Helen, I looked for you for a long time after I came back to the country, but I could never find you. Where did you go?" My mother's voice was cold. "What year did you come back?" 1999. "Is that so?" "Because the year after you returned, Linda Hayes came to see me. She told me you two were married and that I should leave you alone. Do you know?" Sincere was already 2 years old, then my father was shocked. "Is that true?" My mother cried out, "Why would I lie to you? I remember Linda came and told me she was already pregnant and that you were very happy together. She told me not to disturb you." My father looked tormented. "But I didn't marry her until 6 months after that. Does that mean the child isn't mine?" He sank into deep thought, muttering to himself. No wonder the premature baby was as big as a full-term one. In a fit of rage, my father smashed his cup on the floor. "Linda Hayes. How dare she lie to me? She kept our family apart, Helen. You and our son have suffered so much all these years. Wait for me. I'll go back and sort out this mess, and then I will bring you both home with all the honor you deserve." That very night, my father took the train back to Sutherland. The first thing he did was go to the hospital and get a paternity test with Ethan. The result was clear. Ethan was not my father's biological son. When my father learned the truth, he was on the verge of a breakdown. His own son had been suffering while he had spent years raising another man's child. He went home and immediately filed for divorce from Ethan's mother, Linda Hayes. He reclaimed all the assets in his name. Ethan and his mother had been completely dependent on my father. With their source of funds cut off, their lives became miserable. Ethan clung to my father's leg, begging, "Dad, I'm your son, how can you abandon me?" My father kicked him in the chest. "Get off me, don't call me Dad. I'm not your father, and I don't have a foolish son like you. I always wondered why you had no talent for cooking. After all those years of training, you were still useless. It turns out you're not even my son. You good-for-nothing disappear from Sutherland, or I'll beat you every time I see you." Ethan clutched my father's leg, pleading desperately, but was eventually dragged away by security. As they hauled him off, he kept screaming, "Dad, Dad, how am I supposed to live without you?" The once proud heir to a Michelin star restaurant had fallen from grace in an instant. It doesn't feel so good, does it, Ethan? In the end, evil begets evil. What goes around comes around. Chapter 8. The Morgan's Michelin star restaurant was renovated. The Morgan name at the entrance was removed. It was replaced with Clark's. On the day of the grand reopening, my mother and I were dressed to the nines. The three of us stood at the entrance for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. My mother, in an elegant dress, stood in the center with my father and me on either side. As the scissors cut through the red ribbon, the new sign was revealed to the public. A wave of applause rose from the crowd. Suddenly, a man in a mask and a baseball cap rushed toward us. He was holding a small knife, aiming for me. I reacted quickly, kicking him square in the stomach. The knife clattered to the ground, and my father landed another kick on his chest. Security guards swarmed in, pinning the man to the ground. I ripped off his mask. It was Ethan. He stared at me, his face twisted with hatred. "It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, all of this would have been mine. I'll kill you. I'm going to kill you." Sincere, my father calmly called the police. When they arrived, they put Ethan in handcuffs. Just then, another woman burst from the crowd. It was Linda Hayes. She grabbed the ceremonial scissors and lunged toward my mother. She had no regard for the police at all. Before she could get close, she was subdued. She could only scream at my mother, "Helen Clark, you ruined me, and my son, you'll die a miserable death." This mother-son duo was truly pathetic. Their logic was warped. They were the ones who had usurped our family's happiness, causing us to be separated for years. After enjoying the fruits of my father's labor, they had the audacity to seek revenge when their cash cow was taken away. How laughable. Ethan was sentenced to prison for attempted murder. His mother, Linda, having been caught in the act in front of the police, was also served a prison sentence. The small incident didn't affect the business of the Michelin star restaurant my father opened for me in the slightest. With my soaring dragon's glance as the main attraction, it was impossible for the restaurant not to be a massive success. Chapter 9. Ever since we started playing a video of my competition victory on a large screen at the restaurant entrance 24/7, business exploded. To dine at our restaurant, you had to make a reservation. We were fully booked for the next month. The one dish that every customer ordered was my specialty stir-fried beef noodles, especially when paired with my signature soaring dragon's glance move. The line of customers waiting to eat here, without exaggeration, could probably stretch all the way to France. But a truly great chef isn't satisfied with just one popular dish. They constantly develop new ones to stay ahead of the competition. My father and I worked together, and under our joint effort, our restaurant was consistently rated by food critics as a must-visit destination, like father, like son. We had a natural chemistry. We shared not only a passion for developing new dishes, but also a unique understanding of food. Our opinions were always surprisingly in sync. My father felt as though he had found his long-lost soulmate. He would pat me on the shoulder proudly and say, "Now this is Walter Morgan's son. He inherited all my best talents." I once casually asked my father if I should change my name from Sincere Clark to Sincere Morgan. He shook his head and smiled. "No need. What's wrong with having your mother's last name? Besides, she raised you all by herself. It wasn't easy. What's more remarkable is that she managed all these years alone, without finding another man to help her. I am ashamed. I will owe your mother for the rest of my life, but from now on I will do my best to make it up to her." I saw my mother peeking from behind the door, holding a fresh cup of tea for my father. I grinned. "Mom, stop eavesdropping. Come on out." My mother shyly entered and handed the tea to my father. He wrapped an arm around her and confessed with deep affection, "Helen, from now on, we'll live a good life together. You've suffered enough all these years." I quietly exited the room, gently closing the door behind me. I wanted to give them their space. My father had always been a man of action. The very next day, he bought 2 tickets to the Maldives. He waved goodbye to me, luggage in hand, and said, "Son, The restaurant is all yours. Your mother and I are off to enjoy a quiet life." Seeing the blissful smile on my mother's face, I felt a deep sense of relief. Her suffering had finally come to an end. "Mom, may the rest of your life be filled with happiness." I saw them off at the airport and drove home. My mind was already buzzing with ideas for new dishes. I was so preoccupied that I didn't see the woman who darted out in front of my car. Chapter 10. I slammed on the brakes just as the car was about to hit the woman. But she collapsed to the ground anyway, crying out in pain. I turned off the engine, got out of the car, and went to check on her. To my surprise, I recognized her. It was Victoria. She was disheveled, lying on the ground and moaning, "Help, help, a car hit me, someone's been killed." I watched her dramatic performance. Impressively, after all this time, her acting skills hadn't faded one bit. With such a talent for theatrics, she could have at least made a living as an extra. To think she had fallen so low as to resort to staging accidents for money. I looked down at the woman on the ground and said mockingly, "I didn't even touch you, Victoria." As soon as I said her name, the woman who had been lying on the ground shot up. She pushed her messy hair out of her face and looked at me. The moment she realized who I was, she frantically tried to cover her face with her hair again, as if that could make her invisible, as if a thin veil of hair could protect her so-called pride. When I said nothing more, she saw her chance, scrambled to her feet, and bolted in the opposite direction. She ran as if her life depended on it, desperate to escape before I could witness more of her pathetic state. Her hair was still covering her eyes, blinding her. As she rounded a corner, she didn't see the truck speeding toward her. By the time she realized it, it was too late for the truck to stop. She froze on the spot, staring blankly as the truck slammed into her. The force of the impact was immense. She was thrown into the air like a rag doll, tracing a parabolic arc before crashing back down to the pavement. Rain began to fall, mixing with the blood pooling on the ground. Some of the more timid pedestrians covered their eyes, unable to look. I never thought that when we met again, it would be our final goodbye. Victoria, did you ever feel a moment of regret? The person I once cherished with all my heart had ended up like this. In the end, it was all her own doing, her just desserts. I called for an ambulance, then got back in my car and drove away. Life is but a fragile lotus petal in the universe, destined to one day wither and close. The end.